the walkway to wait for it? No.
Nope.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. He's not a newcomer, but we're going to welcome back Michael because he's been gone for a long time. And it was really nice to get up this morning and see him out here. So anyway, good morning and welcome to this week's Everyday Dharma group. And here's beautiful Bali Rika. This is Christmas at Bali Rika. And today, Mark is going to be giving the talk, and it's sort of a special thing because right when we didn't have a bridge and everything was flooded, we had several wonderful talks with almost nobody here because you couldn't get here partly. So by request, we have asked for repeats, and Mark has agreed, and Wendy is going to give her repeat later, and I don't know if John's going to or not. He hasn't committed. But so today, for some of you, like 3 maybe, you get to listen to it again. So it's a special talk. It's always off the cuff, so how it goes. So now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mark.
Thank you, Ruthie.
Okay.
And welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to lead you on a meditation. It's a very gentle, very, very soft meditation. And like all meditation, it's about just connecting with yourself, just finding that spot inside. And so we've done this enough times. We know just to find yourself in a relaxed, comfortable position. And in that position, finding yourself just breathing. Noticing your posture if you can. Noticing how you just feel. And while you're doing that, if you could just take an energetic snapshot, just how you feel, your thoughts, everything else, and then just settle into your breath. Anything that pops up, observe it. Refrain from getting drawn into the story. Just breathing gently, observing. In a few moments I'll have a request for you, but for now, observe. Releasing tension in the feet, and tension in the hands, however slight or big. Noticing posture, where your shoulders near your ears, or have they just fallen away from your ears? Just allowing them just to relax. Take another energetic snapshot. You had one from before. Just notice how you feel now. Your thoughts now. slowly bringing yourself back into the pavilion, to the sound of the birds outside, the light hum of the fans, if you can hear that. Back into this space. And as you're doing so, take another energetic snapshot. So you have now 3 of these images in your mind that you can feel and sense and have thought on. And just bringing yourself back into this space, feeling your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And now that you're coming back, part of today's talk is about realizing difference. And so when you first came into the pavilion and you sat down, you socialized and you meet and greet and everything, you had a feeling in your body, your mind was processing stuff. And then we went into meditation, we took that energetic snapshot and we said, oh, okay, this is who I am right now. And then we started to go into our relax, into our breathing and everything else. We take another, and from the second snapshot, we see how we're different. You know, I'm just not so cluttered. I'm not so energetic. I'm a little softer. I'm kinder with myself. And then on the third one, we noticed that even though we felt that way about ourselves in the second one, in the third one, it was even more so. Maybe we could hear our thoughts a little bit more, but our body was more relaxed because everybody here was holding this energy of being relaxed. So if you drifted, the other person or the other people around you were supporting you in that relaxed feeling. But you're still the same person, the one who first sat down on the cushion and who was waking up from just that gentle, short meditation. And this is important for today's talk. So Lisa brought something to my attention, something she saw on Instagram yesterday, and she had it with a great smile. And basically it was a baby chick. I mean, who doesn't like baby chicks? But that's not what the story was about. What had happened was they had taken this little cube that they had painted one color, and they put it in this sort of arena, they're calling it, but a box. And it was a computer-oriented box. And what it would do is it would just move randomly. And the whole point of the program was to move randomly without any particular purpose and no particular set pattern, just randomly. And they tracked the movement of this box, just a box, a cube. And then what they did is they took a baby chick, and baby chicks imprint themselves on the first thing they see. That's their mother. And so they had this box, they put the chick there, and the chick oriented itself to that box. And say, hey mom, a little different looking, but there we are. And what they did is they let it move, the box move around, and the chick moved around the box. And then they took the chick and they put it in a little container, a little sort of plexiglass or glass container, so the chick was there. And then they put the box back in the center and turned on the program. And the box just moved randomly, all around. Well, when they tracked it, what they found was the box gravitated towards the chick. Somehow, the chick was affecting the program. And you could see that the chick was here, and the box was moving around here, where before it would move all around the arena. It stayed close to the chick. And the point of this story is we influence everything around us. And here's something that has no awareness of the experiment, nothing else, just through its own presence and desire was connecting with a random item that it considered its mother. And that item reacted.
The inanimate object.
With an inanimate object.
Wow.
It reacted.
That's really interesting.
So imprinting, we now know, we've known all our lives, but we're now seeing, because we're looking into it more deeply, is a very, very important thing. And how do we imprint our own selves? And when I first did this talk, gosh, a month or so ago, over a month ago, there was a significant event that had happened, and this point of this talk was talking about how we connect with the world around us, how we see it, and what we think about what what's just transpired and who we are in the process. And so today, realizing that it's been many weeks past that point, it seemed unreasonable to recreate that aspect or that thing. So I'd like to give the same talk, but with a different premise, and hopefully this works. And today, as I was just looking over my notes, I came across Prayer 41 from the book that I've written. And I won't go into all the detail, but I'd just like to read Prayer 41 to you. And it's very simple. It says, "Love. In this moment, all my beliefs, my very first thoughts up until now, have led me to this one single pivotal moment, to this soft breath in, to this gentle exhalation, by which all future single moments will be based. As I move forward, seeking far off boundaries, I am safe to grow beyond them. For I know I will be okay. I know what true love feels like." Amen. So that was written in 2019-2020. And the point of this is, if I know what love feels like and I allow that to guide me, then all of my decisions and everything that happens out in the world will be relating to that love, to that presence. Like the chick. The chick took an inanimate object and recreated the world around it through its desires and through love. So the talk, this original talk, was on the Dhammapada, and I was asked to look into one element of the Dhammapada and give a talk regarding that. And I'm going to keep it in the same context, and it goes like this: that the Dhammapada is a set of teachings, 423 verses, 26 chapters. And is it important to know it all? Sure, yes. But what if we just found something inside of the Dhammapada, something that lit up inside us and said, that feels like the truth to me? That makes a difference in my life. I now know something that I didn't know before, and I now have a relationship with that truth. Then, like a jewel, once we get that jewel, the more we shine that jewel, the more we attend to it, the brighter that jewel grows. And the more we carry it with us, the more experience it has in our life. The Dhammapada, so too, does the same thing. The Dhammapada is meant to be read, to be considered, and then contemplated. And then as we contemplate it, those thoughts become our life. Still with me, yes? Mm-hmm. Then we notice, with those thoughts, how our life changes. And so it's not so much that we're seeking something on high to guide us and, come this way, I'll show you the way. Rather, what we're doing is we're hearing the truth, relating to that truth, embracing that truth, noticing how that truth makes us feel. Not makes us feel, how we feel in that truth. And then we notice how that truth is reflected back out in our life. So when I first did this, I resonated with one particular one, which is chapter 23, which is about the elephant. And very short story. The Buddha is talking about the elephant, about the strength of the elephant, the calmness and the certainty of the elephant. And in particular, it was talking about the war elephant, how an elephant would go into battle knowing it's not its domain and everything else, and yet it remained centered in the thing. Even with all the slings and arrows and all the mayhem, mishgosh, that was going around it, mishgosh, it remained centered. And where can we do that in our life? It's a metaphor that emphasizes the importance of self-restraint and endurance in the face of adversity. Well, it doesn't matter what we're experiencing. We experience that on a regular basis, on a daily basis. So what does the Dhammapada have to say about that? Well, it tells us to cultivate patience and self-control, inner strength, and we do so to avoid challenges and distractions. we're not relying on an external force rather than an internal strength, like the elephant. So, like I had you do in the meditation, we had those 3 snapshots, and you were observing, but you were just observing your own thoughts. This time, we're going to close our eyes, and I chose out of chapter 23 2 verses that I felt were really appropriate, and I'd like to share them with you. But as I share them with you, I'm going to ask you just to come back in, close your eyes, and settle, and just listen to the words that I'm actually saying. They're not always easy, because it's translated from Pali and then Sanskrit. But listen to the words all the same. Who are you when you hear the words? What do you feel when you hear the words? What do you think when you hear the words? Okay, so again, just closing our eyes, coming into our breath, and just relaxing our body. And the first one I'm going to start with is verse 331. Good are friends when need arises. Good is content with what we have. Good is merit. Good is merit of life at the end. And good is the abandonment of all suffering. Second snapshot. Verse 333. Good is virtue until life's end. Good is faith that is steadfast. Good is the acquisition of wisdom. And good is the avoidance of evil. So, once again, just opening your eyes softly, noticing your body, and I recognized that we were in an idea of contemplation, and then I interjected some ideas into that. And they seem to be profound ideas. So you just notice who you are as you hear them, and how you feel now as you've had that experience. What's changed? What's different? Are you still processing? Still considering? Did it make sense to you? Did it not make sense to you? I would like to say, though, that when the Dhammapada, and certainly in this chapter and in the next chapter, which I'm going to read shortly, it helps to have a relationship with good. What is good? I mean, we all understand it. Since we were born, we've developed a relationship with the English word good. And if I ask you to define it, you could probably tell me, and we would all agree on what that word would sound like. But everybody would have a different description of it, because we've all had different relationships with that word. So what the Buddha is talking about when he talks about good is anything that leads to greater understanding, compassion, and the liberation of suffering from others and self. That's what good is. It just naturally inspires that relationship. So when I was doing the talk last time, I really liked the idea of the elephant. I really liked its steadfastness and its relationship with good, its relationship with what it was doing. But as my week unfolded, and I was looking more into the Dhammapada, I found myself leaning more towards the monk. And so then I thought, okay, well, let's take a look at the monk. What's this about? And in this chapter, the Buddha teaches that it's about controlling one's senses, how we feel about that which is around us, and how we speak, the words we choose to describe those experiences and those that are controlling our actions. So the elephant is maintaining space, maintaining centeredness, maintaining a state of equanimity as best its ability. However, the monk is doing the same thing, but it is also noticing how it responds to the environment. The elephant is choosing not to respond. The monk is saying, I will notice who I am in response to whatever's going on around me. So, essentially, the monk is avoiding temptation and is highlighting the value of self-awareness and self-control. And this time, I have 4 verses that I'd like to share with you. So, with the elephant I had 2, but this one I have 4. And again, remember our relationship with the word good is about everything that inspires us to contribute positively into the world through how we perceive it, but also this is about liberation from self and for others from all suffering. That's what really good stands for. Once again, I'm going to encourage you to close your eyes and just clear your mind for a moment. And as you do so, just noticing any tensions where your mind's busy with all the ideas that I've put into it, all the thought streams that I've created. Just letting that go for now. We can discuss that later. Shoulders dropping away, comfortable body. Verse 360. Good is restraint over the eye. Good is restraint over the ear. Good is restraint over the nose. Good is restraint over the tongue. Verse 361. Good is restraint in the body. Good is restraint in speech. Good is restraint of thought. Restraint everywhere is good. The monk restrained in every way is freed from all suffering. Verse 368. The monk who abides in universal love and is deeply devoted to the teachings of the Buddha attains a peace of nirvana, the bliss, the cessation of all conditional things. Verse 371. Meditate, O monk. Do not be heedless. Let not your mind whirl on sensual pleasures. Heedless, do not swallow a red-hot iron ball, lest you cry out burning, "Oh, this is painful." And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. One of the things that I'd like to add to the word good is that in this particular chapter, what the Buddha is talking about is what we talked about before with the elephant. But also, good is the Eightfold Path. It's our relationship with the Eightfold Path. Why? Because in these verses, what we're hearing is the Buddha saying, be aware of who you are, what you're doing, and what you say, and the actions that you offer out into the world. And again, this is really important because we started this talk with a little chick that knew nothing, imprinted on a thing, and that thing was affected by the way the chick lived. The chick drew in something that had no conscience. It was just a series of zeros and ones in random order. But its influence attracted it to the chick. And so where do these similar words, like the word good, where do we attract similar? And where do our words shun or push away or choose conflict? Even when we're frustrated, even when we're caught up in something. Today, while I was going over my notes, one of the cleaners whistles. And I'm very sensitive to sound. I'm losing my hearing, ironically, but I'm very sensitive to sound. And while this person was whistling, it was the worst sound of nails scratching on a board, and it was off key. And it was the same 5 notes repeated over and over and over again for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And everything inside of me was tightening and gripping. But there was a part of me that was saying, breathe. How are you going to deal? You're about to give a talk on about reacting to your environment. So where are you now? And so it took me quite a bit of time to find that spot again, to find myself centered, find myself understanding what good means in this particular case. I knew why she was whistling. It totally made sense to me. Not for the reasons that one would think. It was probably because she was taught somewhere that when you're cleaning somebody's house, that you whistle so that the person always knows where you are. This is an old trick that has been passed down through house staff for centuries. That way the person could move and they always knew where their help was and what their help was doing because they would whistle. But this particular whistle had pain in it. It wasn't happy. It wasn't living, oh, this is wonderful, listen to me whistle. You could hear discord. You could hear heavy burdened mind because the notes were off and they were repeated constantly, like a mental loop, just going over and over again that we can't escape. We can't escape it. And because I'm sensitive to it, it was frustrating for me. But like we've just finished looking into here, I had options. Where could I not be affected by my surroundings? And what were the words that I would choose to describe? Nails on a chalkboard or understanding and compassion for what this person is doing? I had both options available to me, but which one did I move towards? To be honest, it was a little both. It was a little both. But at least I was aware of my choices and that I was choosing to do this for some reason. So we're about to open up the floor for discussion because I really feel, as I did then, that discussion is important to talk about what's been offered. I do have a request, and it's going to make sense to you. I encourage you to leave self-judgment and refrain from needing to share a story. Hopefully when I was talking to you today, I wasn't sharing a story as much as I was sharing an idea, two separate ideas, the elephant and the monk, and their relationship with their environment. Was it a story? Sure. But really, I'm looking towards something. And what I'm really looking forward to is that connection that the chick had with the box, that we had with the elephant, and we had with the monk, and within our own self. And in so doing, when you feel inspired to speak, and please contribute, notice the words that you're choosing, the story that you want to engage in as you share that. Does it reflect who you are right now, in this moment, in this particular moment? Or are you trying to bring something up from the past that needs clearing? Or are you trying to project something into the future? That's my request. And surprisingly, I'm done.
Thank you, Mark.
Comments, questions, thoughts, non-stories.
It struck me how good was like always associated with restraint or passivity, observation, like, and probably they're the words I picked up. That I had thought about the eightfold path and stuff with right speech was more.
It's nice too, because the Eightfold Path is not something that we open in a book and we'll look and say, oh, right speech today, remember right speech, remember right speech. But rather, when we achieve the third noble truth and we have this awareness that we are creating the world around us, and cessation to suffering means that I'm choosing to do something different. These thought processes are not making me happy, and they're not making anybody happy around me. So I think I'd like to maybe refrain from those thought processes and maybe embrace something that is more giving, more life-giving. And the minute I do, right speech immediately presents itself. I don't have to go looking for it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to repeat it as a mantra. It just appears. Right thought appears. once we realize we have that cessation, or the ability for that cessation.
Where does the Dhammapada fit into all the Buddha content? You know, he came down from the tree and he started talking to people, lecturing, had a following. There's the Four Noble Truths. Like, did this come later? Or was this, are the Four Noble Truths somewhere in the Dhammapada? Or is this a separate thing that got added later?
All of the above.
Yeah.
The people who came to listen would go home and, in whatever way they could, either vocally, like he's telling the story metaphorically or what have you, or if they were able to write, they would write. And this happened. So it's you can sort of say it's like the Buddhist version of the Bible. It's the teachings of the Buddha all through his life to begin with, but then people have added.
It's an evolving Bible.
Do you have the prayer of Ashoka?
I do not.
Okay.
Good question, Bill.
Yeah. My understanding of the Dhammapada and Dharmapada, one is Pali, one is Sanskrit, same teachings, is, as Ruthie put it, that these were spoken traditions, and then they were brought together in a form of collective teaching. Pretty much.
So, like, I mean, obviously, when you open up the Dhammapada, is like chapter 1, Four Noble Truths kind of thing? Is that
No, Dhammapada. It starts with basically these are the teachings of the Buddha,
Okay.
and you're into them.
Yeah. And somewhere in there is the Four Noble Truths, or is that a separate thing?
They're all
They're
definitely his teachings.
the teachings are there.
It's embedded in it.
Okay.
Yeah, imbued.
But my understanding of the Four Noble Truths is that is the very first talk of the Buddha after his enlightenment.
That's right. That was the talk he gave first.
Yeah.
So
So if you want to sequence, that's how it worked. And the
Teaching
Dhammapada
number
has taken a lot of time to collect over time. Other comments, questions?
When you were talking about the meaning of good,
Yes.
can you elaborate on that? Because what I heard when you were talking about that was restraint over a lot of the senses,
Right.
the sight, hearing, smell. It almost
Taste.
sounded a little like asceticism, like
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. And again, restraint is the word that was used in one of the translations from Pali. It's like, when we look at the the Eightfold Path, we see the word sama, which we translate to right, but that doesn't mean right. It's just the closest word that we have to sama. If I was to translate sama, it would be something more to the effect of perfect. But because we don't have that direct translation, somewhere somebody said, that's right, we'll make that right, and it's stuck in all the literature. And I have a feeling that what we're talking about here is more refrain. It's one of the Buddhist words that I really love the most in most of the teaching. Restraint feels like a battle, where refrain feels like a choice. And I would have, if I
like
translate,
refrain.
I would have gone with refrain.
Refrain as opposed
I
to
refrain from what I attach to when I listen, from what I smell, what I taste, what I see. I'm just refraining from that and then taking a moment before I respond or react.
I like how you said that. I'm refraining from what I'm attaching to those things. That's it's the excessive, or the not enough, but the excessive. Finding that middle amount of
the middle
sensory and quick.
When I have given understandings of the Eightfold Path after studying it, with a lot of interpretations, is righting the ship, turning it from being tossed around by self, by circumstances, by others, and those things. And it's really about turning the ship around, and which makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah.
so that's what right is the balancing act of, and going back to our Buddha nature. That's righting the ship over time, and that's enlightenment. So that helped me a lot in understanding that word versus right and wrong. Yeah,
I
Marla.
saw restraint
Sorry, you have to speak up, Marla.
I saw restraint as related to the middle way, not
Yeah.
going to either of the two extremes.
Right.
Whenever I think of this, I think of Ecclesiastes 3 in the Old Testament, which many songs are written from. And that's that there's a time to talk, a time not to talk, a time for peace, a time for war, and those things. And so there's kind of a balance in life between those choices. So I always think of that in light of what you're talking about. But there's a time to talk. There's a time not to talk. There's a time to hear. There's a time not to hear. I'm not going to tell a story, but and I'm a storyteller, so this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to figure out how I can do this.
Yeah, that
Tell
request
the
came from a
story,
storyteller.
I know.
Tell the story. That's how
The
we learn.
restraint is the hardest thing for me. To exude is how I am. And so restraint, and so if you apply that to love, there's a time for me to stop loving, to stop the act of love, not to stop loving, but to stop the acts of exuberance. I've had to learn that over and over in my life because that's the righting the ship. That's balancing the ship. So some people I can be exuberant with, and other people, the upright answer is for me to not be exuberant with. It's tricky. That's
Discernment.
It is discernment and restraint again.
They're refraining.
I like restraint though. It doesn't bother me. I'm willing to be a horse with things in my teeth.
There's
Some
some,
of those signs. Not.
there's something that happens in astrology when you first start learning it, and that is there are three main signs. One is the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. And the sun makes sense. That's how I'm going to express myself in life. And so whatever you see yourself as, whatever your birthday was, you came here to express yourself that way. And then the moon is how you feel about your life. And so you notice how you're expressing yourself is one way, and how you feel about it may influence that, or there's a relationship between the two. But the third, the ascendant, is very different. It's how the world sees you. And most people don't have a relationship with this, and it's actually quite important. Because if this is, I am Aries, my moon is in Capricorn, and I understand what that all means and everything, and I think this is who I am, that is me, and that's how I express myself. But the world sees me as a Libra, which is actually about balance and grounding. It's about seeking equanimity. And I can assure you, my Aries self does not seek equanimity in any sense. And my Capricorn self does everything it can to restrain that Aries. And what I realize is people see me as a Libra seeking balance. But if everybody sees me that way, then how I'm expressing myself is not exactly the way I think I'm expressing myself, is it? You see what I mean? When we look at the ascendant, we see the way the world sees us, not the way we're projecting ourselves. So we're getting a little bit of feedback, which was what Jeff was talking about, knowing how the world sees us and reacts to us. I hope I haven't taken it too far off course there.
No,
But
I think that's good.
it helps when you're seeking the balance of the elephant and the monk. You have this idea of who you are. You have an idea of your intentions, but the world might not see you that way. And so you must be open to the way they do see you, so that you can come back into that inner balance. And that's the good I think we're talking about here. That's the part where it's like, if I seek good, if I express good, if I think good, my best version of it, chances are that will be reflected back to me, like the block with the chicken. Ruthie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, this is a bit off to the side, but I was fascinated with the story about the imprinting of the little chicken, the chickie. And I was also really intrigued a long time ago when I read that one of the statements of Albert Einstein was regarding why are you one way and somebody else is another naturally? What seems to be natural? And he talks about imprint. And he says the first decision that we make in life when we are born, and shortly thereafter, is that this universe is either benevolent or malevolent. And so if you imprint with the universe itself as to whether you're going to be a pessimist or an optimist. So if you ever get along through life and somebody says, oh, you're an optimist and I'm a pessimist, how do we get that way? We were imprinted by something in the process of going from a prior life to the new life or to the bardo or whatever. And it's very much a matter of imprinting, which has to do with the astrology too.
Absolutely.
But so when we are going inside and trying to say, who am I and why do I act the way I act and whatnot, just kind of ask yourself, what's my natural inclination? Do I find that this is a friendly universe or an unfriendly universe? And take it from there as part of your travel on the path.
Actually, I don't even see that as a sidebar offshoot. I think that's what the Dhammapada is talking about.
Yeah.
It's saying, have a look at these 423 verses.
Yeah.
Notice what resonates for you. Notice what doesn't resonate for you.
Yeah.
It's not because you're a bad person because you don't understand, or you're a good person because you understand all 423. Rather, who am I, the person observing these things? How do I feel when I read them? And how does that encourage me to see my life and the life around me? It's not telling you to do anything. It's that if it's asking anything, it's saying, who are you? Not like who are you, but who are you as you read this? What are your thoughts when you read this? And the more you read it and the more you do it, how does the world change around you? Because you're shifting the way you view it. So yeah, you can have that initial thought. You know, the
You
world
don't
is
even know, you don't remember that you even
Agreed.
had it. You're just imprinted immediately upon arrival in this dimension
right.
with Jeff and I were talking about that once. I said, we're just going to a nursery at a hospital, and half the kids are peaceful, they're sleeping, the other half are squabbling and miserable. I said, maybe that's kind of how they got here.
Could be.
I don't know. But as I say, when we look into ourselves, which way do we naturally go? And of course, the Dhammapada, the first part of the Dhammapada says, where we place our mind is the creation, the direction rather, of our life. Where you place your mind is the direction of your life. And so that is the sort of the whole same thing.
Ruthie, I'm thinking those babies are saying, oh, happy to be back or not again.
Oh man, look at these people I picked already.
Well, maybe it was, who knows? Maybe it was a very bad pregnancy and birth. Oh dear. Anyway, we
other-
are mysteries.
Other comments, questions, thoughts?
Well, I kind of have been turning over the restraint and the discernment.
The what?
Restraint and discernment.
Restraint and discernment. And I'm thinking that Westerners in particular might be more restraint, might have a negative kind of a slant to it. And so we're from the
going into details, somebody I've been supporting for a couple of years now feels like they have been, I'm choosing my words very carefully, taken over by or given permission to an energy that seeks to destroy. Whatever phrase you want to use, whatever title, whatever religious connotation you want to put towards that. And after a few months of holding space and talking with this person, getting caught in the stories and everything, I asked, are you lost? Are you lost to this? And the person said, yes, I am. It owns me. And I said, interesting, why? He said, well, because of all the things we talked about. And I said, it's impossible. It only can own you if you've given it permission. What you've developed is a series of stories that hold you to this belief, but it's not true. You're an indestructible light, uncompromising, uncorruptible, unless you give over to it. But the minute you embrace that light that's inside you, that good that we're talking about, everything changes. It has to change. And if we doubt that at any time, Ruthie has brought it up many times, where the Buddha goes under the Bodhi tree, sits there for 49 days. 49 days, and Mara comes by and says, enough of this nonsense. I'm going to tempt you with every pleasure you could ever imagine. And Buddha says, no, thank you. I'm going to tempt you with I'm going to scare you. No, thank you. And then he sends his legions to come and attack, and they shoot the arrows. And the arrows fly through the air, and they come into the space of the Buddha. And rather than penetrating that space as arrows, they turn into flowers and fall to the ground. And what the Buddha teaches us is our indestructible nature, our indestructible light, our uncorruptible self. Anything that is outside of that we embody, it's because we've welcomed it, we've taken it in. And we've said that this is true, but it is not true. It's not true.
The power of love.
Yeah, really, the power of that love.
And if you have created that boundary, no one can hurt you. No matter
Speak
what.
louder, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you speak louder?
Speak a
Can you
little
speak
louder
louder?
with what you
Oh, I
just
said
said.
it's the power of love, and that goes back to love is the truth at the heart of creation.
Exactly.
And when you are fully getting into that place of power, which the Mara influence is, oh, love is weak. And it's like Valentine's and unicorns and all this. It poo-poos it. But the truth is that love is actually the strongest force in the universe. And so once you've really established a good relationship with that, do whatever. Who's the story of the monk that goes up to the one monk that's left in the monastery when they're invaded and says, do you know who I am?
Right.
And he said to the warrior, I could kill you with one thrust of my sword. And the monk says something like, I can't remember quite how it goes, do you know who I am? I am the monk who cannot be killed.
I am the monk that cannot be killed.
Or you can't hurt me.
Right.
Do what you will, you can't hurt me. And that's sort of variation, but I don't have words for it.
Wendy also, when she gave her talk on the Dhammapada, talked about one particular person who needed to kill 100 people in order to reach enlightenment and stuff, and the 100th person that he was going to kill turned out to be the Buddha. And when they went to kill him, the Buddha said, this isn't going to work, basically. And he realizes the truth that he has been misled, that his teacher told him that he needed to kill these 100 people, and the Buddha says, but you don't. And so he changes his life, and the Buddha says, go off into the forest, be yourself, do what you ever have to do. And one of the elders or the mayor of a town, whatever, hears about this person who's killed 99 people and demands retribution on behalf of the people of the families that have been hurt by this. And he approaches the Buddha and he says to the Buddha, "You know where this guy is?" And he goes, "Yes, I do." And he goes, "Well, you must produce him so that we can seek our retribution." And he said, "Would you know him if you saw him in the forest?" And he goes, "Well, of course I would know him." He said, "Would you recognize him?" "Of course I'd recognize him." He said, "Well, he's sitting right here beside me." And the point is that he had changed his life to such a degree that the people that were seeking him couldn't see him, because he had become the very thing that he wanted to be rather than the thing he had become. But he also had this knowledge of what he had done, and he had to live the rest of his life with that. And that was the balance for that one particular monk, to find that equanimity, to find that balance, to find how he'd been misled, and how he transcended all of that through the good that we're talking about. Recognizing I made mistakes in my past, but I choose not to make mistakes now to the best of my ability.
The interesting is, though, to me in that story, is that it's really not forgiveness.
Right.
It's actually getting rid of. It's gone. It's not like I forgive myself for all the bad things I did. You did the bad things, and now you're going beyond that. That's then. This is now. More than saying I forgive myself, it's kind of involved, but I find that interesting. Rather than just saying, "Okay, you're free because I forgive you," you just go beyond it. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
May not make sense.
Other comments?
That's detached involvement.
It is. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued as I sit and listen to these ideas that every kind of important leader in the historical context of this humanity that we know or have it written down, people like Gandhi, like Jesus, like the Buddha, like some of these stories, have been tempted with having it all. Reject that, and therefore they get it all. And I think that's part of the discernment process, is to not jump at the impulse, the first thing offered, because there's a better second thing offered. And I hear that as you're talking, the story of Gandhi is a very interesting story, how he created peaceful resistance. He walked through the warriors. They couldn't harm him. Same stuff you're talking about. And the story of Jesus at the end of it is about hatred and murder and all those things. And yet it didn't get to him. He was not defeated. Only his body was defeated. So that kind of thing is really encouraging to me, that this journey leads us to that kind of love.
That kind of power.
That kind of power.
Created. I think the worst thing that can happen is when you have polarized things and one side is being defeated and the defeated side says, well, we should be more like the guys that defeated us. We should give them back, fight fire with fire. Go out, and if they're corrupt, you be more corrupt. In other words, that's a sure way to join Mara. Because then he's got you. He pulled you over to his side. Because you're never going to be as good at corruption as a person who is just naturally corrupt.
I looked into the eyes of my enemy and saw myself.
Yeah. Anyway, I hear a lot of that. Well, we should have been more forceful. We should have been more aggressive. We should have been meaner than they are. And I don't think
other comments? This is good. It's a good holiday message, Mark.
Thank you.
You know the depth of this encompassing kind of love that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Every year in my newsletter, I repeat the same theme, and for over a decade now, but I try to alter it a little bit so it's not the same message over and over again. But the essence of it is that imagine a world where the ghee lamps of Diwali are lit in November, and they light, and so this flame is lit, and then they take their candle and they go outside and they protect it from the wind and everything, and they go to the Muslim festival of peace, and they knock on the door and the door is open and they walk in and they hand the light and they take that light and they light their candles, and then they celebrate that light, and then they take it and they cover it and they take it and they knock on the door of the Jewish house, and they light the shemesh, and that lights, and then that's taken to the birth of the Buddha, and that light is lit, and they take that candle and they bring it to the Christians, and the Christians light the lights of the candles of Christmas, and then on December 26th they take that light and they take it to the blacks celebrating Kwanzaa, and they light their candle of their version of the menorah. And this light is passed all the way through this holy season, and it unites rather than separates or pushes away. It says to each one of us, we're all that same light. Let's just connect that
If
light
only.
together.
If only.
Yeah.
I think we're in the choir about that piece. I think you're talking about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it wasn't meant as a preaching moment. Because that would be a story. Anybody else?
Found myself thinking about the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, gosh.
When the chick was having the effect on the box. And, it's obviously the holidays, and that movie's around the holidays. It was
Yeah.
made in 1947, black and white.
Yep.
And the notion is the impact that George is having around him without realizing. I mean, he thinks he's a failure,
Yep.
and he's just been giving love his whole life. Basically.
Right.
Yeah. And yet, when he's given a chance to see what the world would be like without him,
Yes. We should watch that every year. That and Wizard of Oz. Those two. You get all the messages across.
yeah, he's doing.
But
Yeah,
that's
they're both kind of Buddhist stories in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You ready, Ruthie?
I'm ready.
Would you like to lead us in metta?
I am ready to do that too.
Take your time, Ruthie. It's 11 o'clock.
Well, we've got lots of time. We can sing Christmas carols. We could do Three Dog Night, Joy to the World, all the boys and girls.
Well, maybe we
Joy
don't
to
have
the
that much
fishes in
time.
the deep blue sea. What did you just say? I was so busy singing I didn't hear you.
I said maybe we don't have that amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right, Joy.
if you're up for a Christmas story of some sort, I mean, we do have time. If Christmas is coming, anything about Christmas you want to share, please do. We love your stories.
Joy to the world. All the boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in our deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Okay, ready for some loving kindness. Here we go. Everybody get a smile on. That was a beautiful. Thank you, everybody. All right, for those of you who are new, this is a guided meditation.
Speak up if you can.
Okay, I'm a little froggy today. This is a guided meditation. We're going to go 5 circles, starting with ourselves, outward, 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 of compassion, of love, of unconditional friendship. And it's one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, and it's the first one, loving kindness. And while we're talking about music and joy to the world, there's a line in Uncle John's band in the Grateful Dead. Jesus is taking his people to the river. And he said, what I want to know is, are you kind? And the Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness. So at the very heart of everything is love. And with love comes kindness. Okay? So we're going to just add to this with this meditation. We can do it every day. You can make it short, you can make it long, you can direct it to one person or to everyone, somebody specific. So anyway, just get comfortable, stretch for a moment if you need to. Everybody probably needs to take a little stretch. And get comfortable. Take a deep breath or two. And the first person we're going to bring to mind is ourselves. We always start with ourselves. The more we love, the more we have to give. And everything tends to expand from there, unobstructed. So bring yourself to mind. You can look at yourself from the inside, or you can look at yourself as if you were looking in the mirror to see your inside. To yourself, say, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, equanimity, balance, goals. May I live with ease, calm, and peaceful. May I be happy. Breathe. Smile to yourself. And move one circle farther out. And bring to mind someone you love with all your heart. See this person's face. Smile to them. Say their name. Hand them a Christmas gift. And with it say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Now we smile at them again, maybe blow them a kiss. We move another rung farther out to a neutral person. This is someone that we like or don't dislike, a sort of neutral situation, nothing against them, but we're not in them. And if you don't know his or her name, say friend. So see their face, know that you've seen them before, they're familiar and not harmful to you. So you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, smiling once more at them, we move one ring farther out. This person is someone with whom we are in conflict. We don't like them, or they don't like us, or we've got grievances, blah, blah, blah. And for now, we want to see them without judgments, without ill will, without malice, just as another member of the human race. Look directly at them. Say their name. Smile to them. Take a deep breath and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Sit with that. Feel what it feels like to be liberated from all ill will. Goodwill to man. How does it go? Goodwill on earth, goodwill to man. Okay. When you feel that you really are free, you're liberated from ill will, we're going to move out to the big one. Okay? For this, we put our hands over our hearts. We have time today, so take a moment and see if you can find your husband. Can you feel it? This now is for all sentient beings, for everyone, everywhere. Let me say it a little differently. It goes this way. May all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. Hold this in your heart and in your mind, and when you're ready, open your eyes, release your hands. Merry Christmas, everybody. Now we're going to say our benediction. And we all know how to do this.
This is right up here if you don't know it.
I'm about to say it's right up there for you couple of newcomers. I'm going to we're orchestrating this. 1, 2, 3.
Go in peace, go making peace, living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to the mysteries.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, that was really a nice time. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Next week is Rumi. If you'd like a copy of the poem to meditate on this week, I have copies for you.
Oh, good. Yes.
Okay? So come up and get them if you